guys, welcome back to Coffee Talk with Brandy. Today I was thinking about the question of who are you outside of every other single relationship that you have? So the reason why I'm asking this is it comes down to authenticity, and I think this is a huge topic, and I know that we can have more conversations about this as well. And the cool thing is I have some guest speakers lining up. One of my favorite people from an organization where I live called the Trauma Healing Project has accepted an invitation to be part of Coffee Talk with Brandy. So I'm really excited that we can have an opportunity to learn more about trauma and what is that like, how do we move forward, anything like that. So if you have questions about trauma or things that you might want answered, please feel free to email me on Coffee Talk with Brandy on Facebook. As well as if you want to follow me on Instagram, I am Brandy, Brandy, peer support. You can follow me there and give me a direct message. I am still working on a website, just not my strength, so hopefully I'll get there. But one of the things I was talking to one of my friends about, who are you outside of every other single relationship? And I think this is a really important question because so often we live our life and we don't stop to think about who we are. We can be an accumulation of all of our experiences that we've had. Obviously, that is a great part of who we are, right? And are we being true to our authentic self? Do you have a problem saying no? Or do you say no when you truly want to say no? Now, I'm coming from my own perspective where I have been a people pleaser most of my life. And when I have learned to set boundaries and realize that I can say no and I don't need to explain it away. I don't need to be sorry. It is okay. And it's still something I'm learning too. Together, I think we're going to continue to learn because I am imperfect. And I think that's why I really love peer support is I know that I have room to grow. So, this is just the path of life. But kind of thinking about, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Runaway Bride with Julie Roberts, and I kind of love that movie, and I like Richard Gere. And I'm thinking about how this young woman kept running away from the altar from guys she was marrying, right? Obviously, she's running away at the altar. And then the reporter comes in, and he's kind of like skeptical, like, why on earth does this woman do this? All of this stuff. But he's the one person who recognized that she didn't know who she was. And I know it's kind of silly, it's a romantic comedy, yada yada, and at the same time, she didn't even know what kind of eggs she liked. She would mold into the person that she was in a relationship with. So I want to ask you at this point, are you who you are, or are you accumulation of molding into the people that you're with? And whatever it is for you, that's okay. There's no shame or blame. That is just becoming aware of who am I and what do I want. Sometimes when I'm with people as a peer support, I am able to ask those questions. Like, I see patterns with people. And this was me too. I would give up what I really wanted to do for the good of the order, right? I don't want to fight. I'm the people pleaser. I will just give up everything because it's easier. And at the same time, I wasn't being true to what I needed and the things that I wanted. So it became I wasn't my true self. And I think it's so important, at least for me, it has been so important to find out who I am. So I have been single 8.5 years, and it does get extremely lonely. I will be open and honest with that. I don't want to be single. I do want to be with somebody who wants to have a great relationship, and at the same time, I don't want to settle. So the things that I've been able to do in the last 8.5 years while I've been, quote, in the dating world or not even dating, just finding out who I am and healing from a lot of my own pains and traumas. Now, going back to Runaway Bride, she keeps running away because she doesn't know who she is. And then this gentleman comes along and he notices that she doesn't know who she is. And he pushes back on her in ways that I think we all need, at least for me. And this is how I view as a peer support. And this is what I've learned in my own therapy as I've gone to see my therapist is we ask questions and we push back. You don't even know who you are. This is what he says to this girl, this woman, he's like, you don't even know what kind of eggs you like. And she's like, what is that even supposed to mean? You know, and she's really frustrated at first. And at the same time, it really pushes her to do something different. She starts to think about, well, what do I like? So that's one of the questions I want to pose to you right now. What is it that you want? What is it that is outside of what you're saying you want to do? Are we just in relationships where we're giving up the things that we want because it's easier? And if that is, do you want something different? Because you're welcome to have something different. We just have to, again, create those new pathways. It can be scary. Sometimes, at least I've noticed, that I was giving up my authenticity because I was really afraid of losing the attachment. We are born to connect, and when I have not really had any relationships outside of that one relationship, and there's a lot of times where I feel and had felt so unworthy of love, as I've said before, if you watched another video. So I wanted to be accepted, and I wanted to do what it took in order to, quote, be loved. And therefore, I wasn't really being seen because I wasn't allowing myself to be seen. We create strategies, or we create, I don't know any other word, we create strategies as children to adapt to our environment. So if you didn't feel seen and heard as a child, you created strategies that helped to keep your attachment. So as adults, if there is relationships, whether it's romantic relationships, where it's friendships, where any type of relationship, I'm not just talking like romantic, but are there relationships that we're in that we're giving up our authenticity because we want to keep that attachment? And again, this isn't right or wrong. If you do, that's, it's okay. Like, you are where you are, and that's the beautiful thing with peer support. When I say I meet people where they are, what that means to me is there is no judgment for me. One of the things that I learned, and it was a hard lesson, was growing up with a parent, my mom, who experienced an addiction to alcohol. As a child, all I wanted to do was to make her quit. I became so angry at alcohol because it took my mom away from me emotionally, and she was not able to be very present with me. And I wanted everything in my power to make her stop. And of course, we can't. We can't make them stop. That is their pathway, and we can't choose it for them. And one of the lessons I learned as my mom was terminal is I had to let go of my expectation that she would become somebody different and that she would stop, because it wasn't for me to fix. And it was for me to love her and validate that process. Now, as a child, there were things I needed, obviously. So I'm doing the best that I can to give that to myself, because there were a lot of things that I didn't have as a child when it came to emotional attachment. And I feel like as I'm meeting people out in the field, as I talk to people, I know that I'm not the only one with that experience. When I am truly present with people, I really give them that time and space to be heard and seen. And I've even had people tell me before, you were so present that it's almost intimidating. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. And if I'm intimidating, then I'm intimidating. But what it says to me is I've never been seen and heard, and you're seeing me and hearing me. And that's almost a little overwhelming for me because I'm not used to that. And so learning to accept people where they are is such a huge thing in helping us to move forward as human beings, because none of us want somebody to fix us, right? I mean, when you have a problem and you go to talk to somebody about it, what do you really want? Do you really want somebody to fix it? I mean, maybe sometimes we do want some advice, And at the same time, we as human beings want to be experienced and loved exactly as we are. Because so many of us have had experiences where we have felt that we were not enough. And so when somebody comes alongside of us and allows us our truth and sits beside us and says, you know what, you're worthy of love, and I see you right now, that's what helps us to move forward in life. So wherever you're at in your relationships or anything, there's no judgment. It's just kind of like if you are ready to move forward, if you are ready to strive to live a little more authentically, this is one of those ways. It's becoming aware of that. And that's what we do. When we become aware of the things that is going on or are going on in our lives, we can then choose a different path. So it's becoming aware. So again, like I ask you, are you being authentic to who you are? I know I worked with a father years ago who was giving up a lot of his own authenticity in his marriage, and there was no judgment. But one of the questions I had just asked him, I was like, "Well, do you want to do that?" Because him and his wife were planning on doing something, and when he was sharing it with me, I heard this hesitation. So I was just bold and I asked him, is that something you really want to do? Or are you giving up your own authenticity for the good of the order or whatever it is, for the good of your marriage? And it entailed having a very open and honest discussion. And for him, he was still choosing to do that, and that's fine. Beautiful. Do what you need to do. But within talking and walking alongside of him, there was some beautiful growth that he leaned into, and it was amazing to see. And it wasn't about somebody else, it was about himself. And that's what it comes down to, is like, what is it that you want in your own life? Are you stuck? Sometimes I had met a gentleman in my dating world, and at that time I wasn't really open to having any more children. I was overwhelmed. I didn't really want that, and this person liked me a lot, and one of the things he had wanted was children. But then he had said to me, "Well, if you don't want them, then I can, you know, I can deal with that, right?" And I was like, wow, I really cared about this person. And at the same time, had I not done the work that I had done, I probably would have moved forward because, again, I'm tired of being alone. I don't want to be alone. And at the same time, I took a step back uh, and I let them know. I said, I hear that you wanted to have children, and we're just not in that same place. And I know and I see that you would want to give that up for me, which I think is beautiful. And I'm very grateful for that. And at the same time, what would it look like in 10 years from now? Are you going to regret me? Are you going to be upset with me because I didn't want to have any more kids? So those are some of the things that I leaned into with that conversation. And thank goodness he was able to really think about that, because it wasn't like I was being mean. Like, it's like, I don't want to not hang out with you. I really like you. I like who you are. And at the same time, we're just at different places. And that's okay. And to this day, we're still good friends. And I think that's beautiful. But those are the kind of things that we can ask ourselves. Like, where are we? What do we want? And you don't have to tell anybody. Again, like, this isn't about confessing to anyone. Peer support and asking these questions is all about you and trying to figure out what is it that you want in your life and becoming authentic in your path. And you'll do what you want with that when you're ready. So again, I just ask you, what are you doing? Who are you? Do you really want to do what you said you want to do, or are you just doing it because you want to keep that attachment? And again, there's no wrong answer. It's just really about who you are, where you're at, and where you want to be. I just know for me in my own life, I chose to leave a religion. I chose to end a marriage that wasn't working. And there was a lot of judgment that I went through, especially through church. There was a lot of pressure. And that was a really hard decision for me to make because my authenticity was threatened. My ability to make my own choices was threatened because people were judging me and people were not happy with what I was choosing. And it was really interesting. My dad was terminal at this time, and I remember going to my dad, and I was a little bit scared to tell him that I was choosing to end my marriage. And for the first time in my life, when I reached out to my dad and told him that I was just not happy and that I wanted a different life for myself, my dad, who I'd had some really hard relationships with, and as an adult who had been married, he and I were repairing a lot of things. And so I was really sad that at this time of my life, where I was repairing a hurtful relationship, that my dad was actually terminal. But it was the first time in my life that my dad validated me. And he just said, Brand, it's okay, and I understand. Sometimes when we're going through hard things in our life, we really just need to be seen and heard exactly as we are and not to be judged. And that is the one thing that I want to bring for you. So wherever you're at in your life, if you need that validation, if you need somebody to truly just not be judging you, just know that I care. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want people to know they are loved. I want people to understand that it is okay to end things that aren't going well. And maybe other people will be judgmental, and there will be that threat of attachment and threat of authenticity. But I want you to know that you are important and that the things that you want in your life matter to me. So I hope you have a beautiful day. Hopefully this video was helpful. And hopefully it makes sense. Sometimes when I'm in the moment recording these videos, my mind goes a million miles a minute. And I don't always know exactly my train of thought sometimes. So I hope that you know that you're important. And your authenticity is truly important. And we can go into talking about this another time with somebody, but Dr. Mate, who I've talked a little bit about before, is somebody that I truly look up to. And he's written a book that is called When the Body Says No. And in this book, it talks about if we don't learn to say no, because we're people pleasers, and that was what we learned in order to survive as children, our bodies will start saying no for us through disease. And I've seen that in my own life. I've seen it in my parents' life. And I just want you to know that you're important. And the things that you want in your life are important. Choosing your own authenticity is a beautiful thing, and it is also scary because it goes against everything that we've ever learned, especially in survival mode as children. So I want you to know that you are not alone, that we're building this community here so that we can reach out to one another and support each other. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I want you to know that I'm here and I care. Until next week with Coffee Talk with Brandy. I don't know if that's backwards. It probably is, huh? I will see you. And if you have anything you want to talk about, this is unfolding, and I'm super excited to have some guest speakers because I would love to have some back and forth conversation. This isn't just all about me. I envision like a call-in if people want to do that. Also, I want you to know that if you have questions, and you don't want your name read, all of that kind of stuff. Privacy is important to me and want to respect your own story. So if you have questions or want Coffee Talk with Brandy to answer or give my perspective on it, please feel free to email me because I care and I want to make a difference in your life. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.